Good evening. We're going to call to order. Can we have the roll call, please?
Mike Davenport.
Here.
Christopher Espinoza.
Here.
Jenny Hagstrom.
Here.
Terry Pavicic.
Here.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler.
Here.
Nancy Kupka.
Here.
Scarlett O'Hara.
Here.
And Jade Toledano.
Here.
Let's stand for the pledge.
I pledge my allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. We're going to start with student perspectives.
It's a little tricky.
Okay, so many things have been happening around South. In the past few weeks, our winter sports teams have wrapped up their seasons, which were very successful. Our gymnastics team, which is co-op with North, went to state. Some of the gymnasts placed, so that was awesome. Some of our wrestlers qualified for state, including 2 girls who qualified for our first ever female state competition. And then our senior, Jimmy Nugent, he placed 3rd in the state. And then both basketball teams had a player advance to sectionals for the 3-point contest. And Freddie Coleman, who is our boys representative, will be shooting this Friday to advance. Our speech team also went to state, which was a very successful event for them, with many of the individuals placing. Senior swimmer Bobby Sire also earned all-state honors in both the 50-meter freestyle and 100-meter freestyle this weekend. Spring sports are now starting, with tryouts beginning today and running for the next few weeks, depending on what sport it will be for. And we cannot wait to see all that those teams accomplish during their seasons. Switching over, our fine arts department is working hard to make our spring musical, High School Musical, perfect. This year, the spring musical will be a little bit different and will include guest appearances from groups around South, including our Phillies dance team and the step team, along with some different teachers.
Yeah.
Something else exciting happening at South this week is our Respect Week. During this week, we focus on inclusion and learning to appreciate the differences between each of us. Each day has a theme to dress to. Today was tie-dye, and a fun activity that has been planned by our Unified and Friendship Clubs. One more event that I want to highlight quickly is our Pause and Relax event that our Changemakers Club sponsored twice during the month of February. Changemakers brought in comfort dogs, which students could visit in the library during their lunch and take a few minutes to de-stress with the help of some fluffy friends. Along with the dogs, there were also other relaxing activities to participate in, such as making stress toys. This event was a huge hit among both the students and teachers. I myself went both days. It was a lot of fun to play with dogs.
Oh, yeah.
And as a school community, we are very excited to see what the next few months bring.
Scarlett?
Okay, hi. I feel like mine's gonna sound like a repeat from Scarlett's, but it's fine. Also, our winter sports teams have been wrapping up our season. I am so proud of all the accomplishments that they have made this season. They put in a lot of effort, and it truly has shown with the results that they've shown this season. Some of the teams that I'd like to highlight is our girls basketball team. They won their regionals, which is so exciting. For wrestling, 3 of our students qualified for state and 2 placed. For swim, the state swim meet was this past weekend, and we had 4 swimmers and 1 diver qualify, and one of our swimmers did end up placing. And like Scarlett said, our combined DG and DGS gymnastics teams also placed in the state competition. So I am so proud of everything they accomplished this season, and I know that, like Scarlett said, we will be starting our spring season starting today. It's very exciting. I'm not the most athletic person in the room, which is fine, but I know that they are going to put in a tremendous amount of effort for this upcoming season as spring starts. And going back to my last board report, I mentioned how North gets to host our Scholastic Awards every year. They have so for the last couple of decades. And I'm proud to say that we had an enormous amount of students get these awards from North. For writing, we had 5 students get these writing awards, and it included a gold key, which is the highest accomplishment you can receive, 7 silver keys, and 6 honorable mentions. And for visual arts, I am so proud of this number. We had a total of 99 awards awarded to our visual artists at North. It included 27 gold keys, 27 silver keys, and 43 honorable mentions. And I am so proud of the environment that North has created to help these artists, their writers, and further enrich their opportunities, because getting to be able to be part of this is so amazing, and I'm so proud of them. How I said, March is starting tomorrow. I can't believe it. Time is flying. But with that, in our Fine Arts Department, we have Music in Our Schools Month starting tomorrow. I know we have a chapter of Tryon Music Honor Society at North, and they have been working very hard to make sure that we can spread music and the meaning of music to everybody at North. And I walked in today through Maine, and everything is like chalked up with music symbols, and it's really bringing the energy to spring so far, and I'm really excited. Also with that, we have our spring musical coming up next week, Mary Poppins. A lot of people I know have been involved with this play, and I am so excited to go and watch it. They're going to do amazing. So I do encourage you guys to go and watch it if you guys want. And for speech, we had the state speech tournament, and we did have a qualifier from North, and they did amazing, and we are so proud of their accomplishments and everything that they have been given and the opportunities that they have been given. Back in November, the board recognized the semi-finalists for the National Merit and the commended students. And I am very proud to announce that from North, we have 8 finalists for the National Merit, which is so exciting, and I'm so proud of them, to call them my friends, my peers, to learn from them and grow with them. So that is amazing to me. And finally, I'm almost done, I promise. I thought I would bring up, how did mask optional go today, day 1? Very fun, very on trend. I think it's hard to say if it went just right or it went wrong. I think that the last month had been a very trying time for everybody. I think we can all say that at North, I can't speak for South, but at North there was a very tense social climate in the last month. And today when we went mask optional, I think the first thing I realized when I walked in and I saw one of my friends not wearing a mask was, I haven't seen you actually smile in so long. Like, I can see it in your eyes every day, but seeing you smile is just like, wow. It's been something I've missed a lot. So although things are changing, with change, anxiety can also come in. So I do want to encourage any student that needs some additional support with this transition to reach out to anybody on their alpha teams, because all students have their alpha teams, both at North and South. Amazing counselors, psychologists, social workers, and our CSSS department chairs and our principals. So finally, to highlight, today Dr. Dement made an amazing announcement in the morning about the emphasis of showing kindness and respect. I think that's something that we need to focus on moving forward.
Yes.
We had a PBIS lesson, a Positively North lesson about this today. And I think it's kindness, something so that we learn from being little, but I think it's something that we always need to remember to show to everybody, along with respect. They go hand in hand.
Yes.
So with that, I'm done. Thank you.
Lovely report. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you both.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes. We need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the minutes of the January 24th, 2022 business meeting, the January 24th, 2022 closed meeting, and the February 14th, 2022 special meeting with action item.
So moved.
Second.
Terry and Joanna.
Thank you. Terry Pavasich.
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler.
Aye.
Mike Davenport.
Aye.
Christopher Espinoza.
Aye.
Sherelle Fuller.
Abstain.
Jenny Hagstrom.
Aye.
Nancy Kupka.
Aye. The minutes are approved. Okay, next we will move on to the first reception of visitors.
I have none that are for action items.
Okay. Then we'll move on to the recommendations and reports of the superintendent. Return to in-person learning.
Again. All right. So as we have for the last couple of years, metrics over the last month, you can see we've continued to drop off of that spike that we experienced over winter break and coming back from it. We're down to numbers as low or lower than what we saw in first semester, which just tracks with all of society. As the board is aware and our community is aware from communications that went out over the weekend, there's new CDC guidelines in effect that use new metrics to determine transmission level by county. Under those new metrics, DuPage County's level is low. And they changed the recommendations of mitigations around each of those transmission levels as well. So these were all communicated out in yesterday. Oh, and there was a change in buses as well, that masks are no longer required on school buses or school transportation. So this is the summary of what went out last night to everybody after we had the weekend to work through everything that was in there and how it impacts us. So really, you know, as we've been saying since the beginning of this, individuals that are sick should stay home. And the recommendation still remains to wear a mask after returning for 5 days. Individuals need to isolate and quarantine when they're sick, or, you know, if they've been in close contact with someone, they should consider that as well. People have the choice to mask at all times. We respect that choice. We talked about the buses. We're still requiring masks in health offices. It's you know, likely to assume that people in the health offices could be sick. So it's just a good practice there. We'll maintain the increased airflow throughout the building. We have twice as much as the recommended amount. So we have a 20% air exchange throughout the buildings. That will continue, as well as our increased cleaning and sanitation throughout the building. There's no longer a recommendation for additional physical distancing. And those that are immunocompromised, they provide recommendations that those individuals should consider. So that's the information that went out. That's kind of our updated plan right now. We'll see if anything changes over the next month or so in those recommendations from everyone. If numbers should start to climb, we'll come back to the board in consultation with the DuPage County Health Department, as we said we would when we met the last time. So that's pretty much it. Any questions on any of that? Nope. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Gina now. Do you want the clicker?
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you. So we updated our ESSER ARP return to in-person instruction plan. Even though we provide an update all the time, we actually have a return to in-person instruction plan that we need to update when we make changes. And so I put the changes in red just to try and make it easier. The changes basically with the masking, as Hank just explained. The other things are still taking place. Supports and interventions, we did institute one slight change since what I reported earlier, which is we did increase our bilingual Spanish-speaking liaison support as needed, primarily at South High School. We saw a need, and so our Spanish-speaking person was able to provide assistance, not just at North, but also at South High. So that's another support or intervention change. And then there is a public comment document that you can go to. It's on our website to provide comments. I also updated, as required, our ESSER 3 use of funds plan, which is also on the website. Changes are in red, but as you can see, we really don't have changes. But again, these are some of the things that we're using the ESSER 3 or ARP funds for. The board has heard about these before, but certainly we are supporting a lot of personnel, new positions. We have various resources. Again, no changes, still the same supports. In fact, our ESSER 3 grant was just approved last month. And again, no changes. And we have a form for that as well, online. that you can go in and put in comments.
Any
If
questions
anyone
on
has any-
those?
Sorry.
Yes, Jean.
Well, that's the same question.
I appreciated the red.
Okay, well, made it easier.
Makes it easy. All right, hybrid block schedule update. We've been very busy since the last update. Just a reminder, this is the kind of the overall sketch of what the hybrid block schedule will look like for next year. Featuring Monday, Tuesday, Friday, 8-period days with an 8:20 a.m. start. Wednesday and Thursday, also an 8:20 a.m. start, but those are block days with extended periods, also feature an access period in there. And you're going to be hearing more about that access period over the next couple of board meetings. So this month, February 9th and 11th, during lunch hours, I held Student Ask Me Anythings where students could drop in during lunch hours and ask me anything. The focus was on the hybrid block schedule. However, there was a variety of questions that were asked while I was there. Really focusing in on the hybrid block schedule questions. The key topics that we discussed was student input and what it looks like now and into the future. Really now, obviously, we're developing an instructional model that we as educators believe is the right direction to go in. However, after students live this for a little while, it will be totally appropriate to gather their feedback. And I'm going to share in a little bit, we're going to start gathering feedback this spring about the change in the lunch schedule, right? That was a change this year to go from the half-period lunch to the full-period lunch, which is kind of the first step in the schedule changes. So we're going to gather some feedback on that this spring. And then as we go through the future, we'll continue to gather feedback from students and use that to determine if things should need to change. And if we decide to make changes, then there will definitely be more surveys of students and their opinions of those things. A lot of conversations about the benefits, the why are we doing this with students. You know, the idea of the restructuring of time so that it's more personal to each individual student. A lot of conversations around that. Diving into access, as we will with the board over the next couple of weeks. The idea of how stress levels can be positively impacted through this schedule change. Of course, the later start and what we know, what that means for increased learning of teens. And the idea of building a more consistent schedule. Right now, as our students experience today was a different Monday schedule than there normally is to get our Positively North and Mustang Way schedule in. So an idea where students can expect a more consistent schedule on a week-to-week basis. And then there was a lot of questions and conversations around how block days would work, you know, just reestablishing that those are 2 days a week, not like when we were working through COVID and there was more of them, and just the focus of how the work balance and instructional balance would work over a longer class period, explaining how the lunch periods work with the A, B, and C lunch period, and making sure that a lot of questions that students had as to how that would look and work. Once again, access on those days and resource. A lot of questions about how eighth period release for athletics would work, which is pretty similar to how it's been in the past. And then some discussions around students with late arrival and early release. Some of these are topics that Gina's going to cover here in a little bit. So really good conversations. I would say that the majority of students left those conversations feeling a little more confident about that this is a positive change, that they were able to get their questions answered. A lot of the concerns emanate from the experience in the longer class periods during hybrid. You know, when teachers were planning to teach the majority of their students remotely rather than in person, once we kind of worked through kind of how the structure of a lesson would work in person differently than when it was over a computer screen, that brought some of the anxiety levels down quite a bit. You know, students wanted to make sure that we were going to be talking to teachers about strategies in a longer class period, which obviously we will, but they just wanted to hear that, right? And that teachers would, you know, take into consideration that it's a longer time to be in class, right? So that lessons needed to be varied, and nobody wants to be talked to for,
Right.
a long period of time. So, after talking through how teachers plan and design things, even a 50-minute class period,
Yes.
very few class periods is a teacher lecturing for 50 minutes, right? So just talking through how lesson design might work in that lowered a lot of the anxiety around that topic. So that was good time to talk. Once we get out more information about access periods and some of this information over the next month, we'll send out a summary of that information to the student body and ask what concerns that they have that remain. So we can find out, do we need to just, like, it's already been solved for, it just hasn't been communicated well enough, or is it something that's still hanging out there that we haven't yet addressed? So that'll be coming kind of later next month. All right, I'm going to turn this over to Gina, who's
Hey.
been working with, oh, go
I
ahead.
just want to ask, how did the students generally find out about the Ask Me Anything sessions?
Our principals communicated them out. Yeah.
Are student board members, do you feel like the students really are aware of it? And-
I personally receive emails all the time about it, and they make announcements every day. Like when Dr. Thiele's coming, they'll be like, "He's in this room today during these periods. Go visit him." So I mean, I feel like at South, I don't know about North. I feel like it's very well communicated. At
Excellent.
South.
Yeah, I think it goes the same for North. I know you were supposed to come, I think, in January, and then
Right.
you didn't, and then everyone was so sad. That you
I know.
They
Make it
were
up to them,
weeping
I'll
in
come
the
back again.
hallways,
We're all
right?
crying.
I know.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
You're so
Tears of joy. I also had teachers bring down whole, like, representatives from their classes with lists of questions to then report back to their class. So it was a
Excellent.
mix.
Yeah.
Okay, then that was
What a,
good.
what a great opportunity for the
Yeah.
students, I
Yeah.
think, to have such a direct line to you. So,
Yeah, and I've answered a lot of questions via email and
Sure.
those kinds of things as well, so. All right, Gina's been leading a lot of the committees, but she's gonna report out even on the ones she hasn't been leading.
That is true. So just a quick committee update. Our part-time and traveling teachers schedule committee, I know I updated the board already on this, but we met in December, gathered some feedback. By now, teachers who were interested in part-time have already put in requests for that, and we will be working on scheduling very soon for next year. Professional development, certainly, we have a team working on that, working on what that'll look like next year. As you may recall, you heard, we're not doing the Monday late starts, right? So that PD will be factored into the day. And so, again, revising that, redesigning that for this new model. Department course team time, a great committee that I led with one of our department chairs. We met in December and talked through a lot of different options on how we could potentially carve out some time for departments or course teams to meet. We actually just met with our small subcommittee a few hours ago, and are meeting again on Wednesday to talk through some of those options. Athletics and activities, I was not on that one.
I was on that one. I
But
can
Hank,
talk about
Hank-
that if you want.
If you want.
All right. So, don't let me talk, Gina. So really, it looks very similar. It's 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Friday, just like it was in the past. On Thursdays, that 8th period falls during the day, and then our coaches will have that time with their athletes in the middle of the day. If on Wednesday and Thursday, teams need to leave for a competition early because we have a later start in the day, it'll work just like in other schools around us that have a later start, and some kids might need to leave a little early on those days. But it shouldn't be as impactful as they're leaving a block class, right? So they'll have a good amount of time to get established in that class, figure out what they might be missing in that last, 10 or 15 minutes before they head out to a competition. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then, in terms of late arrival or an early release, we have moved towards an option for juniors and seniors that are in good standing, meaning they're on track to graduate on time in 4 years, that have 6 or more classes with parent permission. If they have basically, on the 3 days, first period or 8th period, they can elect to either come in late or go home early if it's 8th period, or on the block days, depending which periods and the way that it falls. So that'll be an option. We've done some of that already and have been doing that, of course, with parent permission, but we just solidified it on what the expectations would be for the hybrid block for next year for just juniors and seniors. Again, we're not providing extra bus runs. They'd have to have their own transportation. They certainly can stay. They do not have to leave, but they can elect to do that with parent permission. And, oh,
Next slide.
I lost it, okay. So the access, thank you, I thought I still had it, my apologies. Our Access Resource Committee is one that now small groups are meeting all the time. I think I have 3 or 4 meetings this week alone about access. So we're focusing on access right now, and then we'll focus on resource. And remember, access is basically half an hour on the 2 block days. So half an hour on Wednesday, half an hour on Thursday. We've had several full committee meetings, and that's a committee of about 50 people, a little bit over 50 people. So it's a huge committee. And even some of the individuals that I've been working with and meeting with are not necessarily even on that committee. Some are not. So a lot of people have their hands in the planning for this. And currently working with primarily our instructional coordinators as they're working with our instructional coaches to plan what we're calling executive functioning lessons. I'm working with basically our department chairs for counseling and student support services on how to revise their lessons that they currently do. They basically push into classes. So for example, Global Connections or English class or something like that, to redesign those to fit as much as possible within those access periods so as to protect time from those other classes. And then of course, meeting with various other subgroups individually that will factor into the planning of what we'll do next year in access. We've worked on calendars related to it. We've worked on different ways of organizing it, and we're getting now to more of the planning. Some of it's revising or redesigning, and some of it is starting really from scratch. So very exciting work with a lot of individuals having input.
And next week, we'll start bringing you some of the topics. What you're going to start to see, though, is in Jill's presentation later this evening about strategic plan, you're going to start to see an overlap occurring between the themes we're hearing in strategic planning and the topics that are showing up in our access periods. So watch for that over the next month as the two kind of come together. Something else that I'm pleased to announce to the board is that we're entering into this with a third-party program evaluation of the hybrid block. As I said, we'll start with some focus groups this spring around, what happened with lunch this year, but also students' perceptions of the schedule heading into next year. So we have some baseline kind of just ideas of what students' concerns or questions are, so that we can find out, are we solving for those concerns next year when students return, or are they still hanging out there and we haven't done anything with them? So we're bringing in, actually White & Company, our partner on our construction, is funding this study for us. So District 99 will have a third-party independent consultant providing the program evaluation of the schedule change. White is covering all of the costs of that. And they have agreed to a 2-year case study. So it'll be this spring, all through next year, and all through the next school year on what our students' experiences are and achievements related to this schedule change. Meg Ormison is a highly regarded educational researcher and well-known in the Chicagoland area for a variety of her work. So she's also familiar with District 99. She's worked with some of our teachers over the years in some of the books that she has authored. She's brought in some of our teachers as co-authors on some of her books. So she's familiar with District 99 as well. In this case study, she has met with the administration to understand kind of the changes leading up to the schedule. Obviously, the physical structure of our building has had a major impact on our ability to move in this direction, starting with the full period lunches, but then as well the hybrid block, which is why White's interested in this, right? They would love to see that those changes led to student success, right? Which we believe it will, but they're willing to bring in a third-party independent expert to see if that's the case. I, of course, like this because what's measured gets done. So, of course, it's nice to go to our staff and say, we're going to be measuring the success of these changes, and here are the metrics that we'll be using to determine if we are making gains. Obviously, feedback will be sought from all of those involved, students, teachers, staff, and of course, from data sources. You can see some of the concerns that the board has raised over the last year about the schedule are addressed already in some of these themes. Here's some of the measurables that have been put together to look at as we move forward. As I said, data is a piece there, and student staff feedback. So you can see some of these things we're already tracking. Some of these we'll have to start tracking next year. But really looking forward to having Meg come in and meet with our students and our staff and to really dig into this and, to some extent, hold us accountable for this change. So you'll be hearing from Meg. You'll meet Meg over the next couple of years, and you'll see her reports coming in.
So this is planned for just 2 years?
So it's the spring plus the next 2 school years.
School years, okay.
Yep. Yep. All right, I'll turn it back over to Gina to talk through the timeline here.
So the timeline essentially is as we demonstrated last month. We're just continuing to work in the committees and work on those solve fors that most of the committees have met and worked out most of those. Still working on Access Committee, which is huge, and Resource. And we'll continue to give updates. And then, of course, new schedule will start in August.
Wow. All right, so this is kind of where we're at right now. So we'll be back next week with some updates on Access and some other key pieces of this. In the meantime, board members, if there's something that you'd like us, after you have some time, absorb this over the next couple of days. If there's something specific you would like Gina or I to address next week, please let us know. And we'll make sure that we include that in next week's presentation as well. Any other general questions?
Just to reiterate,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, there will be a final board decision
Yeah,
about going forward.
just, you've probably answered this. Is our long-range plan to go to a full block schedule? Are we-
Not entering into it, but that would be something we would evaluate as we went forward. We particularly prefer the hybrid block because teachers still see students 4 days a week. Where when you go into a full block, it's 2 or 3 days a week that you see. Plus it gets into this wonky
Yeah, you have like
rotating
an A week
schedule.
and a B
Yeah, you get an A week
week.
and a
Yeah.
B week, and we like the consistency of just getting used to Monday is this, Tuesday, and just falling into a rhythm that way. However, and there's also a lot of, like, you can see the work that Gina's doing to plan with the team for Access and Resource and that instructional changes that we're going to have to put in place. It's a lot to just change for those 2 days. To layer in another 2 days of planning would be twice as much, right, of what's already a lot. So our long-term right now, we believe, is to remain on the hybrid block. However, we continue to evaluate and look at what we're doing. And if overall it looks like, wow, we could benefit from making that next move to 2 more block days, we could have that discussion, have students give us their feedback, everything else. But going into this isn't like a step here to move
To there.
to there. No, that's not the plan at all.
I was going to ask, just, there's a lot of history on this out there in terms of other districts that have their full block hybrid. After looking at all that, this is what we chose as, are there many examples of schools that have been in hybrid and gone to a full block or vice versa? Or?
Yeah, there's, with schedule changes, it varies all over as to success in moving to one and then to another or transitioning back. There's any number of variables that play into the success of one versus the other. So there's really no like true game plan of you do this, then you do that. It's very individual to each school district. And a lot of the factors that we've been talking about, like what the board's goals are and strategic plans and the physical layout of the buildings and all of those things, transportation and busing, all of those things play into your ability to make changes in schedules, short-term or long-term.
I would think this third-party evaluation we're going to be doing, and then just all the feedback we're seeking and continue to seek, will help inform us how to make this even better
That's
as we're
the
going
goal,
along.
right? The goal is obviously at the end that we were successful, right? And getting feedback along the way, especially from somebody outside of the organization, definitely will help us make tweaks and changes along the way and get real-time feedback that we can use to adapt and improve as we go. Other questions? All right, strategic plan update. Jill's going to come forward and give us an update here. You can tell me when to
I'll
advance.
reveal my name tag.
Oh, there you go. It's a great reveal here.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
It's good to see you. As you all know, we're in the middle of creating our strategic plan for the next 5 years, and we just wanted to provide you with an update of where we are today and where we're headed in the next couple of months. Just to recap, as you'll recall, you approved moving forward with creating a strategic plan back in August, and all of you spent some time with the consultant and shared your vision and views and perspectives. Thank you very much for taking time to do that. Hank was interviewed as well, and we interviewed a lot of people, a lot of students, staff, and community members over the past few months, and I'm going to just give a recap of what that feedback entailed. And we also had an online forum, so everybody had access to provide some feedback there too. So moving along. The central question that all of the groups were asked was, what do District 99 students need to feel prepared for their next step and hopeful for their future? So the first group we'll cover is the students, and maybe Scarlett and Jade participated in a lunchtime exercise, or you were part of the focus groups too, maybe. I think so. Okay, so we had focus groups. About 15 students participated total, and those were dedicated sessions to get more in depth about what their perspectives were. But we also had open forums during the lunch periods at both North High and South High, and it was just great to just grab students and bring them up and have them respond to these open-ended questions. And some wrote like a paper about what they were feeling, and some just wrote a few poignant words. So it was fun to read those. But they were prompted to feel prepared for my future I need, and then teachers, adults can help me feel hopeful and prepared by. So kind of echoing back to that main central question. So kind of the themes of those wants and desires. Students would like more academic offerings that prepare them for the real world. They're also seeking more time and attention and personalized instruction from their teachers. They do need help with mental health issues and finding that balance in their life, and they want more input into school decisions, as we know, just as looking at this hybrid schedule right now. So we want to hear those voices. They want to express them. Staff, we also held a few staff engagement sessions, both in person and virtual, back in November and December. Didn't have a huge turnout, but a lot of these themes also echo what the students said. They know the importance of good relationships with themselves and students and families. They want to provide those experiential type of learning and personalized instruction for students. They want to also provide life skills and help them plan for after high school and give them that emotional support that they need. And just they know the importance of student voice again. It's kind of like copy and paste. And finally, community and family sessions. We had a few evening sessions with families, and over 50 people participated. We also had smaller focus groups. And again, They would like to see more personalized instruction for their students. They want their students to have more support in their planning for their future, including more access to the counselors, a chance to develop leadership skills. A lot of people repeated that PE leadership class and would like to see that replicated in other areas of the school. They want to also have life skills experience, again, interviewing, resume creation, and those types of things. So all of this feedback was provided to the core planning team, and this is a new team that was formed. And it's part of the process that we're following. Back in October, we invited everybody to participate, and we sent out, thousands of emails to you all and to our alumni and to our community, and asked people who were really interested in being part of this process to participate. And again, it was open to everyone. We had 42 people who applied, and after reviewing the candidates, we made a balanced decisions of who to invite, and 11 accepted our invitation. So we had 3 students, 4 current parents, 2 future parents, and one of whom is an alum. So that was very fun.
And the rest of the group, of the 42, were invited to be part of the focus groups.
Correct.
So everybody who stepped forward was allowed to be part of it in a
Process.
smaller setting.
So that team met a couple of weeks ago for a 2-day workshop, and their focus question was, how can District 99 best leverage internal and external resources to better prepare students for college, career, and life? And they created, and maybe you have seen it already, we've posted it to our website, their report, and it's sort of a draft roadmap of broad strategic directions. And so we've gone out now to the community to ask them to go online and to respond to that, to post their ideas and their questions about it. So I'm hoping that a lot of people will participate in that process too. So where we are today, tomorrow we're going to have an administrator meeting to review the core team's work and to provide input for them. Again, gathering that community input on the draft roadmap, which is due on Friday. And then the core planning team will meet again on March 10th to refine the plan based on all the feedback that it receives. And then we'll present a draft plan and hopefully include some of those core team planning members here at the presentation on March 21st. And then we'll continue to refine it and then present it, we hope, April 18th. And then we'll, from there, develop implementation deadlines and so forth. So kind of roles and responsibilities. But it's very exciting to be part of this process. It's been very positive, and it's fun to talk about the future instead of the present.
Right? Amen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a brief report.
So I just had a question. I understand we have an alum on the core committee, but when we were talking with the community members, were we fortunate enough, did we snag any recent grads, like within the last 5 years or less? Do you know?
I'd have to go review who the people were, but as far as coming into the open
To
sessions
give
and
us,
whatnot.
just since they were recent grads, to give us subject. I mean, if you don't know, it's. I'm
Right, I
just
don't know
curious.
off the top of my head, but
Don't worry about it.
yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. We'll send them another email, though. We have alumni list, so.
Participate.
And if you receive a yellow card, respond to it, yeah.
Yeah.
Other questions for Jill?
Thank
I'd
you.
like to recognize that Jill has done a ton of work
Yeah.
and, making sure that all these meetings go off and in communicating everything and through a variety of physical, in-person, and virtual settings throughout the year. So she's been doing great work on this, leading it.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you.
All right, Jeree, proposed student fees for 22-23.
Well, we are proposing no increases in the curricular and extracurricular fees for next school year.
Thank you.
We are, however, recommending one change in the district's school fee schedule for next school year. Over the past couple of years, we've experienced an increase in the number of families who have qualified for reduced price school meals. So therefore, we'd like to be able to offer these families a reduction in the cost of their school fees. The change we are proposing is to implement a fee schedule that reduces curricular and extracurricular fees by 50% for the families that qualify for reduced price school meals.
And this is an action item this evening. So questions for Judy on this?
Just, why weren't we doing it before? Do you know? I mean, this seems like such a logical thing, and it's just one of those things that we just
Just never did.
So I support this 100%.
I have a question. I had believed that if you get reduced lunch, I thought you can apply to have your fees totally removed. Is that not true? I don't know.
No, it's not been. It's only been for those who qualify for the free meals.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right.
There's a different tier
Yes.
There is.
for each thing, so.
Yes. Federal income guidelines, yes.
But now with all of that, they would qualify for the half price
Yes.
for student fees, is what you're
Yes.
saying. Okay, I'm just making sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. The next item is sticking in the finance realm, 22 sports camp fees.
Okay, the athletic directors at both schools would like to increase the summer sports camp fees by $10 for this summer. The last time we increased the fees was back in 2019. The proposed summer camp fees range from $80 to $150, depending on the duration of the camp. This increase will just simply help offset the operating cost of the camps. And we support this requested increase in camp fees.
Now, would this include some of those students who are on free and reduced lunch that participate in the summer camps?
Most of the high school students who are in that category their camp fees are waived through the boosters.
Okay, all right. Okay, good.
It's a great program.
Yeah.
My kids took advantage of it. It's the best deal going.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
high level of instruction, it's a lot of fun.
Especially for those incoming freshmen. They feel more part of the school community by being able to take care of these camps and that. And they feel like they get to know other kids and also a lot of our teachers and staff participate in those camps. So it's just a really
student-
win-win situation
Students
for
help
all
out.
those kids.
Yeah, it really
So-
is, Terry.
So I think that's really important.
Yeah, and less expensive than most of your, club offerings. So if any
Right.
parents out there that have to pay for that like I did,
Right, right.
will appreciate this. So I think the $10 is fine.
It's still a bargain at
Yeah,
any price.
yeah, and 3 years in the making since we've had the raise, so.
Very good.
All right. This is up as an action item this evening as well. And our final financial one for the evening, transportation contract.
This one's frightening.
And as I say, yeah, we have a common number there, 10, but the 10 is not
Yeah.
Not
nearly the
cheap.
same. No, it's a 10% increase. So first student is requesting a 10% increase in all route rates for the 22-23 school year. This increase mainly relates to the bus driver's wages and the guarantee of a 5-hour workday for the drivers. Both of these will hopefully help with the shortage of drivers that we've experienced this year. I think, as you know, we coordinate our bus routes with districts 58 and 68 to reduce the overall cost to all 3 districts. Since 2014, this coordinated effort has saved all 3 districts a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so although the proposed increase seems high, it is actually at or below what other busing companies are proposing to other nearby school districts. So we support this increase and hope that the board will too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I must say, I have seen signs lately for the cost, for the salary for bus drivers, and I recall my daughter being in grade school and riding the bus and knowing kind of what the salaries were, and there has been quite an increase, so I understand. I mean, this is kind of where we are.
Yeah. I think we're going to have to do it. I mean, wages are going up everywhere, so we've gotta, if we want to get good quality people, we have to pay the price.
When's the contract up?
This is an extension.
This is
on
an
the
extension?
contract. And in the packet, I was just thinking, I don't know if you've noticed that, let's see. Right now, a paired route in the morning is, a paired route means we share a bus with 68 or 58. For next year, we'll pay $93.90. If we had an unpaired route, it'd be $154.99.
It's substantial.
So it's a big savings of what we do.
Right.
Well, in saving to districts 58 and 68 too,
Correct.
which helps them out as well.
Right.
And we're, you know,
Well, and when we hear about consolidation of school districts, you hear about the kind of savings that you could have
Right.
in cooperating. We do that, even though
Doing it.
we're separate school districts, we get that same kind of,
Savings.
fiscal leverage by working together with our partner elementaries.
Yeah.
All right, so
So
this
it
is.
just
oh,
goes
go ahead,
one
Jen.
year at a time?
I mean, it looks like we've
Well,
extended.
no,
we usually do a multi-year contract. It's just
Right.
that they're asking to,
Extend the
It-
contract.
yeah.
It would be very difficult to go out to bid right now,
right
Yeah.
now. So,
given the current situation.
so we're anticipating next year that we
Yes.
Yeah.
That we would?
we would go out to bid next year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We generally do, but this would not be a
A good time to do that.
good economic time for us to try to go out and openly compete in a very tough market right now.
The ball's in their court right now. so-
Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna be ugly.
Thank you.
All right. Next one is board representation on the parent-teacher advisory committee. This is Scott's each year.
Yeah, we're looking Wednesday, May 4th.
Oh, I didn't update the slides. So
that's okay. Yeah,
X/XX is Wednesday, May 4th.
Yeah. There you go.
Sorry
right.
about that.
Wednesday, May
Well, here,
4th. We usually have 2 board members, I think, that
Yes.
volunteer at the time, and it's usually at 6 o'clock. We are looking to be in person this year. Gina actually attends, and we go over the consolidated district plan. We talk about special education issues, things, and then discipline data, so.
I nominate Jenny.
I accept.
She's a parent.
Yes.
Jenny?
Yeah.
And did you want?
And I'll
Joanna?
volunteer.
Perfect. We will get you more information as we get close.
Anybody else
Jenny
want to?
and Joanna,
Jenny, thank you.
unless
you.
somebody else wants
Anybody else
to
wanna
battle
step
it out.
No, I've
We
served
gratefully
my time.
accept your volunteer.
All right, Wednesday, May 4th. We'll get you more information in advance of that. Thank you both.
Thank you.
All right.
Freedom of
Freedom of information requests, we've had them, we filled them, and they're available and listed on our website. All right.
Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda, is there any item that any member of the board wishes to remove from the consent agenda? No? And just before we say, I'd just like to acknowledge
Donation.
once again the Education Foundation. It was 4
Yeah.
grants
Yeah.
totaling almost $5,000.
Cool stuff. New kiln.
Stuff, very
Yeah.
cool stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Foundation. Okay, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the consent agenda as presented, which includes the personnel report, appointments administrator, appointments certified, appointments classified, the personnel reports, retirements certified, retirements classified, resignations certified, resignations classified, the financial pages, the educational tour, and the acceptance of the donation from District 99 Education Foundation.
So moved.
Second.
Terry and Mike?
Thank you very much.
First for me.
Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Christopher Espinoza,
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller,
Aye.
Jenny Hagstrom,
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, the consent agenda carries.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to the recommendations for action. We need, the action items, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the student fees for 2022, 2023 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Oh.
Mike and Cheryl.
Thank you very much.
She was a little louder.
Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller,
Aye.
Jenny Hagstrom,
Aye.
Terry Pavasich,
Aye.
Joanna Vasquez Drexler,
Aye.
Christopher Espinoza,
Aye.
and Nancy Kupka.
Aye, the motion carries. Next, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the summer 2022 sports camp fees as presented.
So moved.
Oh,
Second, Terry.
Thank you. Mike Davenport.
Aye.
Terry Pavasich.
Aye.
Joanna Vazquez Drexler.
Aye.
Christopher Espinoza.
Aye.
Sherelle Fuller.
Aye.
Jenny Hagstrom.
Aye.
And Nancy Kupka.
Aye, the motion carries. And lastly, we need a motion for the Board of Education to approve the amendment to extension of pupil services agreement proposed by First Student Incorporated for the 2022-2023 school year and authorize the administration to execute all necessary documents to continue the contract.
So moved. Second.
Sherelle got you.
Sherelle and Mike,
She was
Sherelle
eyeing
was
me.
first, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, Sherelle
Oh,
won.
wow, thank you.
she's getting feisty back there.
Okay, Sherelle Fuller.
Aye.
Mike Davenport.
Aye.
Christopher Espinoza.
Aye.
Jenny Hagstrom. Aye. Terry Pavasich.
Aye.
Joanna Vazquez Drexler.
Aye.
And Nancy Kupka.
Aye, the motion carries. We'll now move to the reception of visitors and public comment. This is the second reception of visitors, which is intended for audience members to address the board on any topic pertaining to Community High School District 99. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes to provide all visitors an equal opportunity to address the board. Individuals needing more time should submit their thoughts in writing to the board secretary, Mrs. Nidek. Visitors addressing the board need to submit a comment slip to Mrs. Nidek and will be invited to the microphone. Prior to addressing the board, audience members should state their full name. The proceeds are being tape recorded and live streamed. Is there something wrong? Okay. The proceedings are being tape recorded and live streamed for the purpose of producing accurate meeting minutes. I reserve the right to modify these protocols if circumstances warrant, and your observation of these protocols is appreciated.
All right, we have 7 visitors wishing to address the board this evening. As usual, I'll call you up, and I'll let you know who the next person is so you can kind of prepare your thoughts for the next group. So first person up this evening is Carrie Swenson, followed by Noel Manley.
Way too close to you guys.
You got to kind of stay there because you're wired down. There you go.
I actually don't start my timer yet. I'm passing out your board ethics for you to, don't go through it now. You all have it on your computer, but I'd like it in front of you. And there's some past emails that I've sent out to the board way before you were here, Christopher. I'll get you one to share. I might run out.
That's all right. We'll make sure that they get to the board.
I'm actually going to change my usage a little bit, but my name is Carrie Swenson, and I'm here to address the board, the admins that are here, the building administrators that were here. My comments today come out of a place of love for District 99. I've been up here complaining. You all have gotten my emails. I've also been very positive with my children, with other parents when things are going well. The past 3 years through COVID, I've been up here and have had negative things to say because of the way it was handled. But I've also been at these board meetings before COVID, and there is a consistent pattern that I've seen at these board meetings. There are different personalities, there are different ways that we are voting, that we are deciding, and Mike, board member Davenport, really brought it home to me at your last meeting on the 14th, when he brought those shirts out. Okay, and what kind of school we used to have. So I thought about this as a parent, as a taxpayer. That was a message of unity. That was a message of positivity. The leadership on this board with President Nancy Kupka has been one of divide and of negativity. And I have multiple examples of that, of her breaking this oath that I brought here consistently. Starting with my very first interaction with you, where I sat down after speaking and you proceeded off the mic to yell at me and say, you gave your opinion, now it's my turn to give mine. That is a violation of to represent all school district constituents honestly and equally and refuse to surrender responsibilities to special interests or partisan political groups. You didn't have that. I was off the mic. It was out of order. And you never apologized, and you did it again. Another meeting a month later where you said, you don't speak for my people. That was your exact quote. You don't speak for my people. Exactly which people are those, Nancy? Because these are your people sitting right here as well. I can tell you it's also not the majority of the community right here in front of you, and we have been here all along. You don't speak for my people. Another example of a clear violation to stay abreast of important educational issues at the local, state, and national levels. You're not staying abreast of these. You asked Dr. Thiel in November 2020 when our students were getting vaccinated, or how many of our students were vaccinated. It wasn't even available yet for students. That was national news. All over, any news thing, when are the students, testing is starting here. Why would you ask our superintendent what the vaccination rate is for students when it wasn't even available? You were not paying attention to things you needed to govern this board effectively. How can someone who humbly brags about being a PhD in nursing, a lead clinical researcher at Walgreens, not even know when student vaccinations were available? It's blatant disregard for the community you serve. Furthermore, you often
Once
ask,
your time has expired.
can somebody give me their minutes?
No.
No.
That's not part of the board protocols. The next speaker is Noel Manley.
Thank you.
Is that somewhere in writing that it's not part of the board protocol?
You get 3 minutes. Noel Manley is the next speaker.
Okay, I'll just come back next one.
The speaker after that will be Marcella Chareau.
Good evening. My name is Noel Manley, and I'm a resident of Darien, Illinois. I want to congratulate the board on its 5-1 vote on February 14th to have the district go mask optional, effective today, February 28th. I also want to thank the D99 students who advocated on behalf of themselves. They could not have made a clearer case to end this sad chapter in our 2-year COVID ordeal. I also understand that the attendance rules have changed, so now that masking has been addressed, the board needs to move the meetings back to a larger venue. COVID mitigation and alleged threats were used as justifications for the former attendance policy, which limited attendance to 20 attendees. Now that the masking issue has been addressed, we need to look at these alleged threats. To be clear, any elected official or public employee should never, ever be threatened. They are elected to do a job, and whether you agree or disagree with their performance of that job, a threat should never be issued. Illinois state law is very clear on this point. Threatening public officials. A person commits threatening a public official when that person knowingly delivers or conveys, directly or indirectly, to a public official by any means a communication containing a threat that would place the public official or a member of his or her immediate family in reasonable apprehension of immediate future bodily harm. Threatening a public official is a Class 3 felony for a first offense, and is a Class 2 felony for any subsequent offense. On February 14th, Board Member Pavicic referenced in her public comments threats that have been made, and her comments were also quoted in the Suburban Life newspaper. If this is true, Board Member Pavicic, you need to be clear about the following. Who made these threats? When was the threat made? How were the threats communicated? What was stated in the threat? And were these threats reported to law enforcement? Again, to be clear, FOIAs have been sent to both District 99 and the Downers Grove Police Department regarding these serious issues. However, responses show that no threats have been reported. So is there information that you're not sharing with law enforcement or the public on this most serious matter? As an aside, I have a certification in cybersecurity from the Illinois Institute of Technology, and I can assure you that law enforcement can access or has access to very sophisticated tools that can track the electronic fingerprint of most posts, emails, or texts. And quite frankly, people making such threats are not generally very sophisticated. And to be clear one more time, when someone disagrees with you, that is not a threat. It's just a difference of opinion. Thank you.
Ms. Chareau, followed by Kara Janowiak.
Good evening. My name is Marcella Durdick-Charay. There's a societal revolution by government edict that's taking place right now in this country, and it's one in which parents are being told they have no right to interfere with a public education. The contempt and arrogance of the political elite has grown to the point that even our school boards act above us and look down on the citizenry. Maybe if Americans were being taught reading, writing, and arithmetic instead of identity politics, CRT, and the feel-good disguise of being good global citizens, they'd be literate enough to fully comprehend the dangers of what's currently taking place in the world today. You have waged a war against families and parental authority So forgive me if I have zero sympathy for how frustrated you are. School officials have betrayed our trust by unapologetically working against community values. You have acted as if our rights were privileges to be granted. Your frustrations pale in comparison to what parents and students have had to endure for far too long. And while most, though not all of you, voted to finally go mask optional, I will not extend any gratitude. Victims don't thank their abusers for the return of their freedom. You only changed your position because your feet were held to the fire. As I've said here before, our children are not wards of the state. We don't relinquish our parental authority when our children step onto school grounds. By tradition and by law, parents have the primary responsibility for their children's care, their health, their nurture, their morals and values, and yes, for the content and the quality of their education.
Ms. Janowiak, followed by Kevin Custer. Kara Janowiak. Yep, Kevin Custer is next, followed by Beth Backen. Bacher, thank you.
My name is Kevin Custer. In August at the board meeting, Nancy, you publicly stated that CRT would never be taught. On January 31st, the Face of Downers Grove North video was played to my son. It's talking about intersectionality. My son asked me to watch the video and asked me what I thought. I want to teach my son how to think, not what to think. And I asked him, what did he think? What the video talks about is Greta. Greta doesn't have to think about her identity. Both of her parents are educated. Her father owns a successful business. Because of this, she doesn't need to think about her identity. Greta thinks of herself as someone who will go to college and get a good job when she graduates. Greta can ignore her intersectionality, the video goes on to say. Fatima and Jerry are part of a marginalized group, so they don't get to choose if they have to think about their identity. The implicit message of this video is saying that in order for someone to be oppressed, there has to be an oppressor. I asked my son, what did he think about this? He's very smart. He said, what if the white girl was Jewish? Would she be oppressed then or not? My family is a multiracial family. No one should ever tell me, my wife, my son, or my stepson that they are oppressed or they are an oppressor. Because of the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, this is the greatest country in the world. It doesn't matter what your race, your skin tone is. I travel all around the world teaching financial literacy and empowerment to the poorest people in the world. Intersectionality does not factor into the people that we serve. My son has decided to serve in the Army. 30 days after he graduates DGN North. Rather than your teachers telling my son he is an oppressor, I would just ask that they thank him for his future service.
Laura Hoyce is the final speaker after Beth.
Good evening. My name is Beth Bacher. I have a sophomore at Downers Grove North and a college junior who went through North. For the past 6 or so years, I volunteered with teens from high schools throughout DuPage County. Last night, some of my students who attend District 99 schools told me they were afraid to come to school today because it was mask optional. They had no problem with the virus, but they were afraid that other students and teachers were going to come at them. And that brings me to my purpose for talking tonight. Sorry, I'm very nervous. I'm asking the board, please reach out to the students that lawfully chose to go mask optional the week of February 7th. Listen to their stories and investigate their claims of mistreatment. I emailed the board members outlining the mistreatment that my son was put through. And I feel like my concerns were blown off. I was told to go to something on the website to report something, but here's the problem. I have no faith and no trust in District 99. So instead, I reported my concerns to the Department of Children and Family Services, and it's my understanding that other parents did as well. At the last meeting, Mr. Davenport, thank you, you raised concerns about maybe looking into some of these claims about mistreatment, and they were blown off too. I hope you all noticed the chorus of objections coming from the students and parents sitting here. The objections to the blow-off. The teachers, or not all the teachers, but some of the teachers and staff at District 99 have not done anything to protect the harassment of these unmasked students. And what's worse is some have joined in the bullying and the intimidation. I'm flabbergasted at how adults have treated children in these past couple of weeks. Now, it's not all of them. My son has wonderful teachers and wonderful staff that have been great. But the fact of the matter is, there are staff teaching at our high schools that don't belong teaching kids or just can't do it now due to some emotional damage from COVID. I don't know. And I'm concerned about the teachers as well, because I know some of them have to have been bullied and intimidated too. And I know that because that whole week I heard, I'm just trying to keep my job. I'm just trying to make it through the day. We, or they, meaning the upper levels, are making us do this. This is not right. I wonder how many other parents and students had the very same things that they heard. So I'm begging you as board members, investigate this. This behavior and treatment of our students was unconscionable. At my son's school, there has not been a lot of Positively North going on for a good chunk of the students. But I am concerned that District 99 has some positively toxicity.
Your time has expired.
Going on.
Thank you. Ms. Hoyce?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Laura Hoyce. I thank you for changing the rules around the meeting tonight. I want to speak on 3 items. First, the masks off. Second, OMA violations, Open Meetings Act violations. And third, the survey for strategic plan. I agree with the last speaker that there has been irreparable harm done to our students by the masking that was done for not the purpose of health and safety, in my view, but done for control purposes, and it should have ended 2 years ago. So I do appreciate Mike Davenport's comments at the last meeting, and I've said so. I think that the way the message came across today, it was a day for us of celebration. February 28th, masks off. The message that came from Downers Grove North was masks respectfully recommended. And from the district, people can choose to mask at any time, which from my reading and my perspective sounded kind of a definite bias toward keep your masks on, we prefer masking. I would have said, hey, you don't have to wear your mask today. It's a time to celebrate. This is a wonderful thing. The Open Meetings Act, for the last, talk about irreparable harm for the December and the January meetings when the protocols were set in place, in my view, illegally and in violation of the Open Meetings Act, to limit public attendance to only 20 individuals and choose the smallest meeting venue where many people were turned away in the cold. My son was one of them, and my son was one of the mask plaintiffs in the suit against the governor, and I'm sure that you're aware of that. But he wanted to speak, and he couldn't get in, and it was so cold he had to go home. So this was irreparable harm. Those 2 meetings, we'll never get those back. He'll never have an opportunity to address the board again. But I do appreciate, and from what I've heard, that some changes have been made, that there's no longer a 20-person limit, and I'd like to know more about how that came about. There are 4,930 students enrolled, and that means double that number of parents that haven't had an opportunity to address the board because they've been discouraged from doing so. Next, the survey for strategic plan. There's a request for input outstanding, and I read the attachment, I read the summary, and the strategic plan has a lot of words, but they don't mean anything to me. Examples, validate change through data and regular feedback. Well, I want to know what kind of change are we validating? Are we validating not teaching true American history or the 1619 Project? Are we validating more equity programs that we think are toxic to our students and not helpful? Increased student voice. We want our students challenged. We want our students highly educated. We don't want them sent to safe spaces because they won't be able to make it in the world. Thank you.
That concludes public comment.
Okay. Communications and announcement. Jenny, Hank, anything on Lend?
Yeah, we had a meeting on Friday.
I do, yeah. We actually have had 2 meetings since we last met. In January, a lot of it's probably taking care of itself. We looked at the COVID-related PTO bill. They were waiting on additional information which would offer more protection for fully vaccinated employees. Unvaccinated employees would have an opportunity to get vaccinated within the first 5 weeks once the bill takes effect in order to receive the same protections. There was still concern as to the sunset of the bill, whether it was the end of the school year or the end of the executive order, or only when an executive order or emergency authorization was in place. We were still waiting on a ruling in the lawsuit relating to the COVID mitigations. The Illinois House voted to extend their remote participation for 6 additional months. The substitute teacher shortage was also discussed at that time. Retired teachers are now allowed to substitute teach for up to 120 days without jeopardizing their retirement status. And then there was a quick discussion as to whether high schools withhold diplomas if fees are not paid. Most school districts don't do this, and we don't do this. So that was the gist of the January meeting. And then, as Hank said, we just had a meeting on Friday. That administrative leave bill has been amended. It no longer contains any double pay language for staff, meaning that you don't have to pay them for the emergency non-attendance day and then also pay them for the makeup day. It does contain a sunset provision for teachers being tied to the executive order, but it does not contain a sunset provision for staff. So that would remain in effect in perpetuity. While that is kind of a sticking point, Lend anticipates that the bill is going to pass as written. There was some discussion on the sexual misconduct bill relating to educators, trying to ensure that an employee in one district who has been convicted or accused of sexual misconduct would be prevented from seeking employment in another district without disclosure. They're still debating this. The issue, one of the issues is that this would likely slow the hiring process because you'd have to do a little bit more digging on a background check. Let's see, there was a brief discussion about a bill related to transfer alternate school, and they were going to meet that day to discuss that. There was discussion as to the mental health days that were approved. It was confirmed that the 5 mental health days are within the total of 10 sick days and not in addition to, and Lend is in favor of that. They are working on a performance evaluation advisory council bill that would help in the evaluation of teachers. They're still watching that. Then we had a breakout room session, and I chose to attend the Open Meetings Act group. This legislation originated in the Illinois Municipal League, so it applies to city council type meetings as well as school board meetings. School boards would be able to conduct meetings virtually. The requirement would not be tied to an emergency situation any longer. There would need to be public prior notice as to how to access the audio and video, how the public can comment, and the board would need to follow its established practice as to public comment and not make any changes to it. This bill would give boards the flexibility outside of a disaster proclamation, to hold a virtual meeting if necessary. If there was inappropriate use of the power to hold a virtual meeting, the Attorney General's office would step in to review. So, the pros and cons include that this would move the decision away from just COVID mitigations. A virtual meeting can also reduce the strain on resources to the local law enforcement community. And the Open Meetings Act is meant to provide transparency into the board's work and not provide a forum for comment on such work. So this is something that's also still in the works, still being reviewed, and the other two breakout rooms related to teacher tenure and career and technical education, and they were also going to meet that day to reevaluate that, and so we'll hear more at the next meeting in March.
Thank you. Sassy, Joanne?
Here, I'll take this off. We approved SOPAS for District 99, and that is a Student Online Personnel Protection Act. That means that student data it means that student data privacy law regulates students' privacy with online things. This will make changes for parents in schools as well. I can't even read my writing. We also approved a tuition increase for about 3.5%. There will be no increase for the summer program. We approved a return to learn for students and staff, and masks will be strongly recommended. KN95 and N95 will be given upon request. We are strongly encouraging masks because of the fragility of a lot of the students during close contact situation. If one does have symptoms, they are to monitor and test regardless of their vaccination status. However, when they're at a different location, where different programs are, where the practices there may differ, staff and students must follow that district's procedures.
Thank you, Joanne. Tara, anything on 99?
Well, tonight we approved the grants, and so those were really neat, and I can hardly wait to see what comes of all of that. And we're also working on providing some webinars for our parents and students on specific topics that will come about, and that will probably be into the fall. But we're working on that right now. So those are our two big things.
Thanks, Tara. IASB, anything, Chris?
Nothing to report.
It's pretty quiet when it's not the
Yeah.
convention. Yeah, okay. All right, we have two upcoming board meetings. We have one on March 7th at 6:30 here in the ASC, and then again, there will be a workshop. March 21st will be a business meeting, 6:30 here at the ASC. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Chris and Sherelle. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.